Alf, so much talk in the Pokemon investing world, in quotation marks, investing. The Pokemon card speculation market, there's so much talk and it's the same thing over and over with a lot of the YouTube channels. And it's amazing to me. It's almost like it's a strange phenomenon. It's the only collectible space, the only trading card space that operates in this way. And essentially what the game plan is, this is the game plan for pretty much everybody that listens to any of the YouTubers out there, is if there's new product, buy a case of that new product, buy a box of that new product, depending on however much money you've got, and just sit on it. Sit on that new product, and each time a new product comes out, just buy it, and eventually, over time, all this stuff continues to go up. That's, I guess, been the track record for a lot of these boxes. But I think there's a few things that we need to think about before we do this. First off, are you going to have a garage full of booster boxes or product, sealed product? And really thinking about the space, are you really going to keep it? Are you really going to hold it? Or did you fall in love with the idea of, hey, I'm going to be a Pokemon investor. Here we are, here we go. But then when you actually get into it and you realize, wow, this stuff is starting to take up space. Where am I going to put it? Is it as easy to sell as I think it is? You have to think about the storage, the selling, the packaging. A lot of these boxes aren't necessarily the easiest to ship. And so if you're not a long-term holder on this stuff, then man, it just seems like there's other places to put capital that make a lot more sense. And of course, you can go over to traditional investments, stocks, bonds, real estate, with, of course, stocks, bonds being the easiest to move in and out of. But I think that it's something that really should be taken into consideration when looking at this part of the collectibles world. If you are buying a trading card, it's small. Graded trading cards, you can keep 1,000 trading cards in a relatively small space. If you start buying a bunch of boxes, ETBs, or what are the other things? What do we have back here? Start digging around back here. Blooming waters. Once you start buying product, I think you really have to think about, all right, how serious am I in this? And then what part of my overall investing funds / speculation funds am I putting into sealed product? And to be clear, I'm a believer in this space. I'm a believer in the Pokemon IP. I've said this in other videos. I'm a buyer. I'm buying into sealed products. I'm buying into graded cards. I'm buying into vintage, ultra modern. I'm buying 3-pack blisters. I've got all sorts of different things that I'm buying into, and I'm learning as I go. I've been into Pokemon cards for about 4 months now. I've been in sports cards and other collectibles category spaces. I got back in about 7 years ago, so I'm not brand new to collectibles, but the Pokemon market is really, really interesting. It's its own animal. It's got its own market, its own pluses, minuses. But I still feel like, and I'm being totally honest here, I still feel like we're really in the infancy of the investing / speculation side of this market. It's weird because if I look back, again, if you go back in time to the pandemic, that was more of a vintage card boom where you had the Logan Pauls of the world, and there was a huge push up in prices for the vintage stuff. Now, over the last couple of years, there's been more of a focus, more of a heavy focus about buying new sealed modern product. Maybe this has something to do with Rudy, Alpha Investments. He's, of course, got huge bags in Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet products. He says it himself that he really kind of felt like he missed out on XY and Sun and Moon. And so he went heavy into the Sword and Shield stuff, which has done well. And part of the issue with this, and I guess the risk factor that none of the people really talk about on YouTube that I've seen, is that this stuff is not scarce at all. Even if we look at Evolving Skies, this is kind of the king of the sets here over the last few years. Evolving Skies, that's the big one. Everybody loves that set. And what is it up to now? If you look at booster boxes and the prices, what is it, $30 a pack, $35 a pack now? Maybe pushing that. And while I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to buy kind of one of each product, because look, as these people say, and they're probably right, it seems to move up over time. There is vulnerability in the modern stuff. There is vulnerability. Even though you do have rip and ship and things that are working in favor of sealed product holders, absolutely, it's also important to keep in mind that there are a lot of sealed ultra modern holders, Scarlet Violet, and that's different than going back years past. There are not as many folks that have huge bags of XY, Sun and Moon, EX stuff going back in time. They don't have hordes of that stuff in the same fashion that people do nowadays. Now you've got whales and mini whales that have a ton of Sword and Shield and a ton of Scarlet Violet. And if they decide that they want to unload that stuff, it comes out into the market in droves. It's basically what we've seen I don't think we've seen much of the whales doing it, but what we have seen are a lot of the paper hands folks that, maybe they've got 10 boxes or 20 boxes or 30 boxes. Still a lot of boxes, don't get me wrong, but we're not talking about hundreds of boxes. Like Rudy's got maybe thousands of Sword and Shield boxes probably. I don't think he's necessarily rushing out to get rid of his boxes, but there's a lot of people with 10, 20 boxes that sold all of it. Because I see it in comment sections. I've watched the Pokemon YouTube videos, the investing channels, and I see it. And I see that a lot of people have just moved out of it. And that's why you've seen a stagnation. You saw basically, people saw those gains on Sword and Shield and some of the Scarlet Violet stuff, and they sold into that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But it doesn't change the fact that that stuff it's not as if they sold all of it and then it all went to a rip and ship to be opened. Some of it did, I'm sure, but it also went to just other sealed holders, or it's just sitting there for sale. There's a lot of that stuff. Go on to TCG Player, go on to eBay, and look up some of your favorite Sword and Shield boxes. They're out there. They're widely available. Go check it out. Chilling Reign. You need Chilling Reign? It's there. There's plenty of stuff out there. It's not scarce. And so for me, I'm going kind of a different direction. I've talked about it on this channel before. I just don't see enough people really. Frankly, a lot of the business owners on the Pokemon side love them. They offer great services, clearly, but they don't really dabble a lot in vintage cards. And for me, one in particular, I've talked about it, is Skyridge. Skyridge is a set, this is the biggest no-brainer singles Pokemon set for me. I only have this one card so far. So this shows, you're probably thinking oh, he's talking up Skyridge because he's got, $100,000 in Skyridge cards. No, this is the only one I've got, and I'm kind of slowly taking my shots and picking different spots in this market. But that set in particular is one that is just a complete no-brainer for me that I need to make sure that I'm kind of stacking, that I definitely want to be stacking over time. Neo Discovery, 2001 Neo Discovery is another example of this. The Umbreon rookie card. I've got a copy of it. I've won a first edition copy as well. That's the sort of thing that, man, when I look at down the road, when people actually really start appreciating the history of the IP and the characters and all that sort of thing, that day will come. I know a lot of the ultra modern folks, they don't get this. They don't understand it. Vintage is trash. There's no shiny cards. There's no pulls. If I buy a jungle pack from 1999, it's just got a bunch of crap cards in it. But you're not understanding the overall history of this thing. You're not understanding the IP, and you're not understanding how that's relevant long-term in collectibles. Look, when big money, when actual serious money, because I think that, yes, there's some money here. There's some whale money in here. But actual, real, serious money coming in here and looking at the Pokemon market, they are not going to go to the ultra-modern booster box market and buy each product as it comes out. They're going to come in and they're going to say, all right, what's the oldest stuff? What's the original stuff? What are the rookie cards of these characters? What are the first ones? What are the first editions? And they're going to dump serious money into that market. So if we're really looking at serious long-term upside, sure, maybe true that you can hold sealed product and it goes up incrementally over time. I'm going to do that as well, by the way. Prismatic, I've announced it. Prismatic, I love that set. I have some of the ETBs. I've got 3 ETBs. I think the price is going to come down more on those ETBs. But over the next couple of years, I'm going to have a nice little section, a closet that's full of Prismatic Evolution. So that's one set. I want to pick the winners. I know what a lot of people will do. They will diversify into each set. That's what a lot of the YouTubers tell you to do, and that's what a lot of people are going to do. I am going to go back and just pick, because I still think a lot of this stuff is underpriced going back in time. I'm going to go back and see, oh, okay, this set is popular. I'm going to buy out of this set. Either whether it's packs or boxes or if it's singles, I'm going to go back and pick the winners because I think a perfect example, Skyridge. Now, a pack of Skyridge I think is like $1,000. So I'm not running out to buy lots of packs of Skyridge, but that's where I think the singles market just makes absolute complete sense. When you look at the prices of the single cards, the singles, even in high grades, even in high grade PSA, they're still pretty inexpensive. I'm like, what? And so all I will say for viewers, if you are really serious about investing, because there's so much investing talk, we're investors. Yeah, if you're really an investor, then you have to have some of the original stuff. You have to have some of the vintage stuff. Tell me I'm crazy if you like in the comments, my friends. Stay healthy, stay awesome. I'll talk to you again later.